So earlier I broadcasted on Facebook, and what I aimed at was the mechanics of power in video games and how power is structured in the survival horror video games. And I think that uh, the dynamics of power is hierarchical here, and that goes to the idea of a dictatorship, or something that is totally opposed to the idea of monarchy, which is a tyranny. So I think about tyranny because, well, first of all, you cannot negotiate with the rules of the game, and this happens in the same way that you can imagine that you want to bargain. If you go to the market, you want to buy something, then you need to bargain. Sometimes in some places, in other places, the price is fixed, and this actually is what happens in the survival horror video games. For example, if we're starting, actually I discussed about this earlier on. Wait. While talking about the relation between what generates the rules, what type of rules are there, and what types of authority we have in the game. So basically, we have the authority that is told to be, this is the hidden authority that invented all this narrative, right? Which is the writer, the game writer, and so forth. But we are not talking about that. In the game, we have the mechanics and the rules of the game, and they are specific to any types of genre. Like any particular genre in has these types of rules, and you cannot change them. You cannot. Maybe in an open world video game you can do something like that, but generally speaking, you cannot change the rules. They are quite fixed, and this is one of these techniques and devices that actually are employed in survival horror video games, because the lack of freedom is what adds to the feeling of terror that will bring you to the sublime, to the terror as sublime. You know, it's like this kind of suspense and tension and awe that you get while walking through all these gothic hallways. So, okay, we can't talk to the policeman here who's hurt. Will turn into a zombie pretty soon. We talked about the origins of the puzzles and the game, and I connected this with Oedipus. Of course, he's not the only one. I was like, we have puzzles and riddles in all mythologies, but I just pointed out one of the possible sources of inspiration. Okay, so we have here one of the solved riddles that gave us one of the emblems, and I'm going to find something else in this game. So we talked about the style, the architecture, and the fact that we have a video game that combines horror with architecture. Okay, and we have this feeling of re-employing, refurbishing the past to make good use, but another type of use. Okay, so we have the typewriting machines. You can save the game with, not write letters, but to save the game. Computers and so forth that don't work, and actually they tell you about the lack of communication in the game, lack of salvation, and they basically add up to the feeling that you're trapped. You're trapped in a city, you're trapped in a thing that will consume you. So it's basically like turning the citadel into an organic being that digests you. So it's this mixture between architecture and organic, culture and organic, and the fluids of the body exposed that will lead you to the idea of the revelation. Okay, so the body of culture, the body of architecture, the body of whatever it is represented in the game is somehow connected to this idea of blood, fluids, or dirt, and all organic matter that it decomposes. So what does blood, piss, dirt put on this beautiful building represent? They represent, of course, decay. They represent mortality. It's a hint that shows us that death is nearby. So it shows us that everything is ephemeral. Yeah. All right. So okay. This being said, let's move on to the game and see what's going on there. Yeah, I know. It's like I've been saying at the beginning of the game for quite a while, trying to explain everything. The reason why I did this is because I basically studied this during my PhD, and I keep repeating this over and over again. I actually plan to repeat everything I said in my previous videos and just remember everything I said, like briefly summarize it with every new video. At some point I'm gonna edit these things, but not now. I will just play the video, get everything there, and maybe I'll write down everything and edit. I don't know, create something else from this material, but I'm not sure about that. I will just enjoy the game for a while. Okay, as we said earlier, you know, the zombies, the fluids in their body, they're obvious to the viewer. Okay, we can see the blood exposed, and that's a form of so-called revelation, but more like a satire, more like a joke, an ironical caricature of what revelation should be. Because when we think about the kingdom of God and we think about finding the truth, of course, like, we have all the good hopes, like better things will happen. So revelation as a monstrosity, it's something that makes you think twice about if you want the end of the world, if you are one of the good guys, and everybody believes it's one of the good guys, it's the others who's the bad guys, right? But then again, you can see that the immortality, the promised immortality, those bodies of grace from the Bible, in a way, like, they are presented in such video games in the horrific scenario as mindless zombies. Dehumanized immortality is, you know, and the idea of undead is something that, it's a paradox per se, because obviously they cannot move if they are not alive. There is something alive, which is the virus, so they move because the virus is in them, and that virus makes them move. But what they are basically, it's the fact. Why is it the fact that zombies are so unsettling? Because they are puppets that belong to some source of power that runs through all of them. So they are not individuals anymore. This is not John, Mike, Adrian, whatever, you know. It's like, this guy is not that thing anymore. It's a fucking zombie. So what does it mean? It's just one of the tools of this power, which is the virus that spread throughout Raccoon City. So again, the virus is nature, violence. It's connected to capitalism as a jungle in consumption and so forth, because the virus is an entity that consumes everything. And again, the virus is associated with the organic and the fluids of the body. Okay, so this fluid, this body, this organic matter that is spread throughout the walls of the structures of the entities of the establishment that actually supposed to, you know, institutions like the police and so forth, uh, show us everything that I talked about. All these things show us that even these institutions are ephemeral. They are meant to pass. They won't stand this change. In our particular case is an organic change, and well, it is something that points out that capitalism in a way, because the virus spreads just like capitalism. I can go and think about Baudrillard, Jean Baudrillard, who wrote about something similar in one of his books. Don't ask me to give you quotations because I'm not good with numbers, names, and ciphers and so forth. So he pointed out that actually capitalism, you know, what did I want to say? Because I made an excuse. But he was saying something about capitalism and consumerism. But I forgot what. However, my point was that all this blood on the institutions show us that actually capitalism, and I think I'm starting to remember, capitalism represented by the virus, the T virus, not the coronavirus. We are not living the coronavirus scenery, but it's very likely like they really are alike. Not the coronavirus, but the T virus or the G virus that it is in Resident Evil 2. This virus really seems to be just like the capital. And now I remember what Baudrillard was saying. Yeah, in one of his books, he said that actually capitalism is beyond the control of morality and rationality. Okay, beyond the control of reason. Okay, cannot be good or bad, cannot be judged by all these things that actually were the foundation of these institutions, like the police, the law, the church, the church, and so forth. Okay, we have the good and the bad in the church, right? The law who deals the truth and the false, and so forth. Now, capital is not like that. You know, it can translate everything into everything. Okay, you can buy good things and bad things with money. We can do anything with money, and it's neither true or false. It's there. It's one thing that can be used to transform everything else into anything else. So it's like with capital, you can make this transmutation to turn things into something else. In our case, in this game, if we think about capitalism as a metaphor for all this gore and organicity that spreads across the walls of institution, it's like a corruption. You know, it's like capitalism is given a bad connotation, so that will be the bad thing. So it is radicalized, like capitalism is bad. Why? Well, but look at what it does to the police station. Look what it does to you know, all this architecture. Look what it does to people's lives. Without police, without order, without rules, without anything like that, well, there is chaos. Nature comes back, organicity comes back, everything that's organic comes back and destroys. You know, this leads to death, because in nature things die, violently die. So the institutions cannot face such a danger that goes beyond their control. It is invisible to the devices that the institutions have to control the capital. So actually the coronavirus, sorry, the T virus or G virus, whatever the virus is in this game, was brought by a corporation. Well, corporation as what are corporations? Okay, so they are entities that they don't have a nationality. Corporations are entities that run businesses. Okay, so what their interest is profit. So what they deal with successfully is capital. So is a pharmaceutical corporation, which of course makes sense because pharmaceuticals, they deal with experiments and so forth. So it's basically, it's it is the same idea that we dealt in the story of Frankenstein, Mary Shelley's, and playing with fire, playing with the forbidden things will lead you to disaster. Breaking the rules will lead you to danger and potentially death. As we can see, in such scenarios, breaking those rules can also lead you to salvation in some cases. So it really depends what rules you break. So you have to have this kind of ability to make the distinction between all things that you have to deal with. Okay, so then again, we have libraries, cracked walls, right? Cracked walls, libraries, books on the ground, and we have level. Wow, actually haven't seen that one. Level. Why is it a level there? Level. Good question. But it's written level. We have books, geometry. I wonder what that sign is. Like two triangles. Like Trinity sign. Up and down triangles. So it's a broken wall here. We have a hole in the wall, right? So we broke through. Broke through this wall. Something broke there also before us, and we end up in a library with exquisite, very interesting books. And we don't see the titles of every book, but they killed him. Okay. Homer. Okay, so we have Homer. So obviously this points out that either somebody randomly picked these titles, or they pointed out to something. Homer. Okay, we have the Iliad and the story of Odysseus written by Homer and other things. Wow, 2020. Look at that. Man, this is interesting. Now you can become quite paranoid playing these video games. Check this out. Coronavirus. This game was released in 2019. Okay, the remake of Resident Evil video game, and it's written 2020 here. So it's like a hint about the future. Interesting. Can be seen like that. I'm gonna take a picture of this one. Alright, so let me see if I can